the crime that fame couldn't bury forever. There are moments in sports history when the shine of athletic greatness gets stripped away to reveal something far more troubling underneath. For Karl Malone, one of basketball's most decorated figures, that reckoning has been slow in coming, but it has arrived. The man who terrorized NBA power forwards for nearly 2 decades now faces the very real possibility of spending the remainder of his life behind bars. And the incident at the heart of the story stretches all the way back to the summer of 1983. That summer, Karl Malone was a 20-year-old sophomore at Louisiana Tech University, already showing the raw, physical dominance that would later make him a legend. He had returned home to Summerfield, Louisiana, back to familiar streets, familiar faces, and a community he had known his entire life. It was there that he encountered Gloria Bell, a 13-year-old girl from his own neighborhood, and what followed would cast a shadow over everything that came after. What happened that summer was not ambiguous. Malone impregnated Gloria Bell, a child by every legal and moral standard. Under Louisiana state law, laws that were just as clearly written in 1983 as they remain today, sexual misconduct involving a minor under the age of 17 constitutes statutory rape, a crime that carries a potential prison sentence of up to 10 years. 10 years. And Karl Malone never served a single day of it. Gloria Bell gave birth to a son, Demetrius Bell, on May 3, 1984, when Malone was 20 years old. A subsequent paternity test confirmed beyond any doubt that he was the father. There was no ambiguity, no gray area, no legal complexity that stumped scholars or courts. There was a baby, a teenage mother, and a grown man responsible for both. The question of why no criminal charges were filed has haunted this story for decades. Bell's family ultimately chose not to pursue prosecution, reportedly in an effort to spare Gloria from the additional trauma that a public trial would inevitably bring. They were likely overwhelmed, possibly pressured, and almost certainly operating with limited faith in a justice system that had historically failed people who looked like them. That decision, however understandable given their circumstances, effectively sealed the criminal matter forever, because the statute of limitations does not pause to accommodate anyone's readiness. 3 years later, Karl Malone entered the 1985 NBA draft and was selected 13th overall by the Utah Jazz. The man who had impregnated a 13-year-old girl just 2 summers prior was now a professional athlete and, almost immediately, a millionaire. In 1986, Gloria Bell's family filed a civil paternity suit. Blood tests confirmed Malone's paternity of Demetrius Bell, and a judge ordered him to pay $125 per week in child support, along with medical expenses. $125 per week. That was the figure a court attached to the responsibility of a man who had fathered a child with a minor he never should have touched. And Malone, who was by then earning an NBA salary that in his rookie year alone exceeded $800,000, contested that amount as excessive. The dispute eventually produced a confidential out-of-court settlement, reached somewhere between 1988 and 1989. Its terms were sealed, its details kept from public view, and Karl Malone moved on. Meanwhile, he publicly denied paternity for years and maintained minimal involvement in Demetrius Bell's life throughout his childhood. Demetrius himself later described their early relationship as distant, so remote, in his own words, that it felt as though his mother had simply gone to a sperm bank. While Gloria Bell's son grew up largely fatherless, Karl Malone was busy constructing one of the most celebrated careers in basketball history. He ranks 3rd on the NBA's all-time scoring list with 36,928 points. He claimed 2 MVP awards, in 1997 and 1999. He was named to the All-Star Game 14 times. He holds NBA records for both the most free throws made and the most free throws attempted across a single career. He played 19 seasons, primarily with the Utah Jazz alongside point guard John Stockton, forming one of the most lethal offensive partnerships the league has ever witnessed. He was a member of the iconic 1992 Olympic Dream Team, and in what became the defining asterisk of his basketball life, he appeared in the NBA Finals twice, in 1997 and 1998, losing both times to Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, those championship rings perpetually painfully out of reach. By any objective measure, his career was not merely good. It was historically extraordinary. That extraordinary career became, in many ways, a shield. The sheer weight of his basketball resume made it easy, almost convenient, for the sports media ecosystem to focus on free throw records and MVP trophies rather than on what happened to a 13-year-old girl in Summerfield, Louisiana. The information was never hidden. It simply wasn't amplified, wasn't treated with the urgency it deserved, and was quietly filed away beneath decades of highlights and accolades. It was not until the era of social media, viral podcasts, and a public no longer willing to separate athletic performance from personal accountability that the full story began reaching audiences who had never known it. NBA veteran and famously outspoken personality Patrick Beverley was among them. During a podcast episode, when the subject of Malone's off-court conduct was raised, Beverley heard the details for what appeared to be the very first time live on camera. The pause that followed said everything. His immediate instinct was to verify, to make sure he had the facts exactly right before processing what they meant. It was the reaction of someone confronting an uncomfortable truth that had been sitting in plain sight for 40 years, somehow never quite loud enough to reach him. The NBA, for its part, has responded to all of this with a silence so sustained and deliberate that it has become its own kind of statement. The league has never revoked Malone's Hall of Fame status. It has never removed him from the NBA 75th anniversary team. It issued no public statement in response to the widespread outrage that erupted in 2023 when Malone was invited to serve as a judge for the slam dunk contest during All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City, his adopted basketball home, a decision that sparked immediate backlash and renewed calls for his permanent removal from league events. The contradiction is especially glaring given how decisively the NBA acts when it chooses to. Players have been fined for minor uniform violations. Teams have been sanctioned for mundane competitive decisions during regular season games. The machinery of league discipline moves with remarkable efficiency when the optics demand it. Yet when the subject is a Hall of Famer who committed statutory rape under the laws of his own state and then spent 2 decades being celebrated across every platform the league controls, the league has chosen to do absolutely nothing. What makes the NBA's silence even harder to accept is the ongoing, almost surreal normalization it enables. As of the 2025 to 2026 college basketball season, the Karl Malone Award, presented annually by the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame to the top college power forward in the country, still bears his name. Young players who have poured their entire lives into this game aspire to win a trophy named after a man who impregnated a child. The 2026 mid-season top 10 list for that award included players like Graham Ike of Gonzaga, J.T. Toppin of Texas Tech, and Ko Pete of Arizona. These are the athletes now chasing recognition tied to his legacy. The absurdity of that situation has not been lost on the broader basketball world, including its newest generation of stars. In 2025, Victor Wembanyama, the most widely discussed young player in professional basketball, the consensus generational talent, and effectively the face of the NBA's future, reposted a video on his own birthday that explicitly criticized Karl Malone and called for him to be held accountable. The symbolism was immediate and unmistakable. This was not a veteran player nursing an old grievance. This was the sport's most prominent young voice choosing, on the day set aside to celebrate himself, to use his platform to amplify demands for justice for Gloria Bell. The new generation of basketball was drawing a line, and they were drawing it clearly. Social media responses that followed included widespread calls to have Malone's NBA honors stripped and his presence at league events permanently ended, with users across multiple platforms stating that he deserved to be placed under the jail. These were not coordinated campaigns or fringe reactions. They were thousands of real people across years and platforms arriving independently at the same conclusion: that something went profoundly wrong, and that the league's continued silence has made it complicit in the cover. Karl Malone's record of troubling conduct does not begin and end with 1983. In 1992, he publicly expressed discomfort at Magic Johnson returning to the NBA following his HIV diagnosis, citing transmission fears, comments that drew significant backlash for the insensitivity they directed toward a man already facing a devastating illness and deserving of support rather than suspicion. In 2004, during his single season with the Los Angeles Lakers, he was accused of making sexually suggestive and racially insensitive remarks to Vanessa Bryant, Kobe Bryant's wife, allegedly asking whether she liked Mexican girls in reference to her heritage. No charges were filed, But the incident caused a serious rupture in his relationship with Kobe Bryant and contributed to the dysfunction that plagued that Lakers season. Also in 2004, during the NBA Finals, Malone was accused of poking a fan in the face following an alleged spitting incident, though Oakland County prosecutors declined to file charges. Then, in 2021, he shared a video on social media falsely linking athlete deaths to COVID-19 vaccines, misinformation that was swiftly condemned as dangerous conspiracy content. No single one of these episodes, viewed in isolation, would be enough to define a person's legacy. Viewed together, alongside the gravity of what occurred in 1983, they trace the outline of a man whose relationship with accountability has always been kept carefully at arm's length. When the documentary series The Last Dance aired in May 2020 and brought Malone back into the cultural conversation, necessarily, given how prominently the Utah Jazz featured in the Jordan-era finals, the backlash reignited with fresh intensity. People who had never known the full story were suddenly confronting it all at once. It was in this charged atmosphere that KJ Malone, Karl's son with his wife Kay Kinsey, took to Instagram and posted a video defending his father. A rare, direct, public statement from within Malone's immediate family on the subject of the 1983 scandal. What KJ said was not a legal argument. It was not a denial. It was something far more human. A son's love, expressed in real time, for a man whose story contains layers that public discourse rarely accommodates. He acknowledged that his father had made a mistake. He also said that his father was still a great dad. And then, in a moment that stopped many viewers cold, KJ claimed Demetrius Bell as his brother. Not a half-brother, not a distant complication, but his brother. He said his name. He said his father took care of him. He meant it without qualification. That moment forces an uncomfortable but necessary acknowledgement. Two things can be simultaneously true. Karl Malone may genuinely be a devoted and present father today. And Karl Malone committed statutory rape in 1983, faced no criminal consequences, and spent the following 4 decades being honored by the sport he played. Both of those things are real. Both of them matter. Neither one cancels the other out, and neither one should be allowed to. The man himself has offered only glimpses of self-awareness when pressed on the subject. In an extended conversation during All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City, he said openly that his flaws were probably 20 times worse than other people's. Whether that was a confession hiding behind disarming Southern charm or a genuine moment of reckoning is impossible to say with certainty. What can be said is that in the rare instances where he has been pressed on what happened to Gloria Bell, his consistent response has been to describe it as a private matter, to claim he has made peace with it, and to move on as efficiently as possible, the way you deal with a pulled muscle, not the way someone who truly understands the gravity of what they did to a child would speak about it. As of March 2026, Karl Malone is 62 years old. He lives quietly, dividing his time between Louisiana and Utah with his wife Kay Kinsey, whom he married on Christmas Eve in 1990. He owns several car dealerships operating under the Karl Malone Auto Group, with locations in Utah and Idaho, and runs Karl Malone Power Sports, selling ATVs, motorcycles, and outdoor equipment. His estimated net worth exceeds $75 million. In February 2026, his car dealership in Bellevue, Idaho, appeared before the city's Planning and Zoning Commission seeking approval to retain 4 shipping containers on the property for additional storage. That is the texture of his current existence: shipping containers, planning commissions, the quiet, ordinary machinery of a wealthy man managing a business empire in a mid-sized American city. He reportedly still uses a flip phone, remaining largely absent from social media. In an era when podcasts go viral within hours and a single repost from Victor Wembanyama can reignite a national conversation, that absence has made everything worse in a specific way, because it means the story is always being told about him, never by him. What Karl Malone stole in the summer of 1983 was not a small thing. He did not steal a moment. He stole a childhood. He took a young girl's future and replaced it with a trauma that no child support payment, no sealed settlement, and no amount of automotive dealership philanthropy can undo. And for 40 years, the institutions with the power and the platform to say so chose silence instead. The courts said nothing. The NBA said nothing. The Hall of Fame said nothing. The award committee said nothing. They let the basketball do the talking, all 36,928 points of it, and allowed the score to serve as an unspoken pardon for everything that happened off the court. But the internet does not issue pardons. It does not blink. It does not forget. And in the strange, chaotic, sometimes brutal and sometimes essential arena where history gets rewritten in real time, one viral clip, one Patrick Beverley timeout, one Wembanyama repost at a time, the sentence that the courts refuse to deliver is being handed down anyway. Slowly, loudly, and permanently.